13 nights. 13 straight nights of American bombs falling on Iranian soil, night after night, obliterating target after target. And last night, something changed. Something the regime was not prepared for. Something that tells you everything about where this war is ultimately headed. For the first time since the phase of this war reignited, the United States rolled out the big one, the B-1 Lancer, leaving devastation in its wake. Stick them to the very end of this video because we're going to see precisely the 3D warfare that's taking place right before our very eyes. We're going to see what the final phase of this war will actually look like in the end and why it will indeed inevitably be the beginning of the end for the Iranian regime once and for all. Greetings, everyone. It is Livestream Friday. I am your host, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. As always, our super chats are up, so feel free to send in your comments, your questions throughout the broadcast. It will be my privilege and my honor to answer them right here on this live stream. Also, before you do anything else, I want all of you to go right now to turleytraining.com. That's all one word, turleytraining.com, because we're living through a time when a lot of people are beginning to realize something very important. The old economic system, the one that told you to work harder, grind longer, depend on institutions that frankly don't have your best interests in mind, it's all starting to break down. And you see it everywhere: inflation, instability, and a growing sense that the system is increasingly designed for the benefit of a very small group at the top. And whenever we see moments like this historically, something interesting always happens, because ordinary people, just like you and me, we begin looking for ways to create independence from the system rather than dependence on it, which is exactly why I want to invite you to a free training with someone I know personally, a good friend of mine named Ryan, who's been quietly building what he calls the perfect lifestyle business that takes advantage of the new hidden economy. What's fascinating about it is that it's probably not what you think of when you hear the term online business. In fact, when he first explained it to me, I'll be honest, it sounded a little weird, but then he showed me the results. He actually showed it to me, and I immediately got excited because it's working so well right now in 2026. And the part that really caught my attention is it takes less than 30 minutes a day to actually run and operate. You heard that right. A half an hour a day to run and operate. And the best part is it's so different from a lot of these other online businesses out there because there's no advertising to run. There's no social media marketing to worry about. There's no employees to hire, right? There's no inventory to buy or websites to build. It's amazing. You don't need any technical background to get started. And this hidden economy lifestyle business is something you can learn and apply in literally just a few hours a week. So I asked Ryan to break this all down for you step by step. So we're hosting a free private training where you can see exactly how this works. So if you want to see how this hidden economy works and decide for yourself if this is the right strategy for you, go to turleytraining.com right now. Reserve your spot because you already know the world is changing. More people are stepping outside the system, not by chance, but by choice. And this is one of those opportunities to do exactly that. Learn more at turleytraining.com. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. We are officially in night 13 of the resumption of this war, and last night's strike package looked nothing like the ones that came before it. CENTCOM confirmed forces struck Iranian military command centers, drone storage facilities, communication networks, coastal surveillance sites, and remaining maritime capabilities, all specifically targeted to further diminish the threat Iran poses to civilian mariners transiting the Strait of Hormuz. That, with the help of over 50,000 American service members, remains open. The whole of Hormuz remains open despite Iran's intentions. We also have confirmation that last night, for the first time since fighting resumed nearly 2 weeks ago, The United States deployed the awesome, the extraordinary B-1B Lancer, flying directly out of the Royal Air Force Base in Fairford in the United Kingdom. If you don't know, the B-1 can carry 2 dozen one-ton bombs, 2 dozen 2,000-pound bombs. It can carry dozens of cruise missiles, and it does it at supersonic speed. So this isn't a drone loitering over a target, right? This isn't a single Tomahawk fired off the deck of a destroyer sitting in the Persian Gulf. This is the United States reaching directly out of a home airbase in Britain across an entire ocean and an entire continent and putting steel on target deep inside Iran without needing to rely on a single regional airfield that could be politically complicated or geographically vulnerable. Trump himself hinted publicly that this is only the opening act. He told Axios reporters just yesterday that he's now actively considering an even larger strike package than anything we've seen up till now, even during the whole of Operation Epic Fury campaign back in the spring. Meanwhile, explosions were reported overnight in Ahvaz, the capital of Khuzestan province, along with fresh detonations in the port city of Bandar Abbas, Jask, Nain, and Isfahan province, Keshem Island, dozens upon dozens of other targets. We're also getting reports from Iranian opposition outlets claiming that IRGC Quds Force commander Esmail Khani, now the Quds are responsible for the regional proxy munitions. This Quds Force commander Esmail Khani was among 23 senior IRGC officials killed in the U.S. strike targeting a key command and control facility. Over just the last 13 days of this renewed campaign, over 60 IRGC fast attack boats have been eliminated, air defense systems wiped out, coastal surveillance networks destroyed, missile and drone storage facilities reduced to rubble, night after relentless night. This is now officially a systematic, methodical, deliberate dismantlement of an entire military apparatus, piece by piece, until there's simply nothing left. And what's so key here is that this is merely one dimension to the 3D chess that Trump is playing here in Iran. If you only watch the nightly CENTCOM readouts, which are very good, by the way, you want to check them out on X. But if you only read CENTCOM readouts night after night, target counts, bomb tonnage, and the like, you're going to miss the forest and the trees entirely. What we're actually witnessing right now is Donald Trump playing three-dimensional chess across three distinct yet interrelated theaters simultaneously. And the brilliance of it is that each one reinforces and accelerates the other two. Now, I know there's some analyses that see Trump playing 4D chess. I actually offered one this week in one of our videos that sees Trump playing a 5D chessboard. Those are all great. They're all excellent. I just find it, when all is said and done, I find it easier to condense everything into 3D chess, three theaters where this war is being fought simultaneously. So theater one is the military theater, right? What we've been looking at thus far, the most obvious one. And the entire objective here, plain and simple, is to permanently wipe out Iran's ability to project power itself and through its proxy network. So that's why taking out that Quds commander was so important. So this is about rendering Iran militarily inert, as well as its regional proxies, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, Shiite militias scattered across Iraq and Syria, and of course Hamas in Palestine. That entire architecture is collapsing in real time, right in front of our very eyes. Hezbollah is pinned down, fighting its own losing war with Israel, and just simply can't lift a finger to help Tehran. In fact, Lebanon's president visited the White House this week for the first time in 15 years. And the U.S. is now working to train and vet Lebanese units to purge Hezbollah from the nation for good, potentially even paving the way for Lebanon to do the unthinkable, to join the Abraham Accords. The Houthis in Yemen, who could have entered this fight against the United States with everything they had and closed off the Red Sea, they've largely chosen to sit this one out, to sit on the sidelines rather than invite the same fate as their patrons. Now, they have of late been hitting a couple of Saudi tankers in the Red Sea, so we'll have to see what comes of that. But thus far, they've been very, very restrained. Obviously, I think that's a deterrence issue. Now that the Assad regime has been toppled, Syria is completely gone as a logistics corridor for Iranian weapons and fighters, as well as Russian influence in the region. And in fact, that's precisely why Trump lifted sanctions on the new Syrian government, because Syria is effectively flipped to our side on the chessboard. And now, night after night, CENTCOM is going directly after the IRGC's own command and control apparatus, targeting the very officers who coordinate that proxy network from the top down, again, allegedly including the killing of Khani himself in last night's strike. When you eliminate the commanders who run the proxy network and simultaneously sever the network's regional legs one by one, you're not just winning individual battles anymore. You are permanently amputating Iran's entire ability to reach beyond its own borders and threaten anyone else ever again. You are destroying Iran's entire regional architecture. So that's theater number one. The military theater designed to devastate, designed to render Iran and its proxies completely, totally, and permanently inert. Theater number two is the economic theater. All right. So I like thinking of it. You've got the military and you've got money, military and money. Okay. So this is where the naval blockade and the global restructuring of oil supply chains comes together into a single devastating pressure campaign. So you know that the U.S. Navy's counter blockade has already cut Iran off from an estimated $500 million a day, right? We've talked about this a lot. They've cut them off from $500 million a day in desperately needed oil revenue. And they're doing that by controlling who gets to enter and exit Iranian ports. And CENTCOM's own official numbers show they've officially redirected a dozen commercial vessels just in the last 9 days alone. But here's the genius part of the strategy that most of the legacy media analysts are just completely missing. While Iran bleeds out financially in real time, and keep in mind, they were already economically devastated before the first bomb dropped. While that's happening, the Gulf states are simultaneously building permanent infrastructure specifically designed to bypass the Strait of Hormuz forever. At least seven major pipeline projects are now actively under construction across the region, running through the Red Sea, the Suez Canal, and the Gulf routes out to Fujairah. That's in the UAE. So Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Iraq are all racing right now to build these bypass pipelines, specifically so that the world's oil markets are never, ever, ever again held hostage by Iran's decades-old threat to close that strait. Now, again, us rendering them militarily inert should do that, but this, again, is a hedge for that. This is how they're working together. So this isn't just about starving the regime today. It's about permanently stripping Iran of ever being able to exercise the single card it has held over the entire global economy for 47 straight years, which, of course, is shutting down Hormuz and interrupting 20% of the world's oil supply. Once those pipes are finished and fully operational, which should be around 2027, the Strait of Hormuz simply stops being a weapon Iran can point at the rest of the world. And as it turns out, this re-architecture of the global oil supply chain in the Middle East, it doesn't complete the puzzle here. There's another oil exporter that's risen up to take up the mantle. There's another oil exporter that's risen up to fill in, as it were, to replace the oil that's being lost by virtue of the havoc in the Strait of Hormuz. And that is happening in our own backyard. That's American energy producers. They are cashing in on every bit of this realignment. U.S. crude oil exports hit a record 6.4 million barrels a day back in April, and it hasn't slowed down. It's the highest level ever recorded by the EIA, the Energy Information Association. Total U.S. crude and petroleum product exports surged to a record 12.7 million barrels a day the same month, with the EIA confirming crude exports alone averaging 5.6 million barrels a day in April, 21% above the previous record. The week ending April 24th marked a genuinely historic moment, the first week in modern American history where the United States officially operated as a net exporter of crude oil. And that's really comes down to WTI, West Texas Intermediate. They have ridden this entire wave. Every barrel that used to flow uncontested through Hormuz that now can't gets replaced by American oil, loaded onto tankers at ports at Corpus Christi and Houston, which together handled the lion's share of that record export surge. Corpus Christi alone, as I understand it, had the busiest month in its history back in March at its port, and its most active quarter ever. Again, this has not slowed down. So that's the second theater here. That's the economic theater, which is both choking out Iran with the U.S. enforced blockade, all the while the global oil supply chain gets completely restructured away from Hormuz and realigned around the centrality of U.S. energy. And then the third theater is the international realignment. This is the piece that actually ties the entire strategy together. This brings both the military and the money together, and it's actually moving faster than almost anyone in the mainstream media is able to admit. You may have seen this. Saudi Arabia has just reached a landmark civilian nuclear cooperation agreement with the United States, tying the kingdom's own nuclear ambitions directly to Washington rather than to Beijing or Moscow. Now, that is what we were seeing during the Biden years, right? Saudi Arabia was about to join BRICS. Those are guys who know that that's the economic alliance centered around Moscow and Beijing. Riyadh was moving very, very close to Beijing and Moscow and away from Washington during the Biden years, precisely because the U.S. was seen as being in irreparable decline. We're falling apart. We look like Detroit. We got the entire nation, and particularly its international relations, got Detroitized. That's over. Now we're going through like an Abu Dhabi phase. We are or a Dubai phase. We are absolutely on the rise. And so what that means then is that Saudi Arabia is turning back to the United States, especially since the United States has proven that it is willing to defend our allies. Beijing does not do that, interestingly enough, and Moscow can't because they're too tied down in Ukraine. So that nuclear deal effectively locks Riyadh into the American orbit for an entire generation going forward. This is what analysts are arguing. It's because nuclear agreements like this one typically require like decades-long U.S. oversight of fuel supply, enrichment restrictions, technology transfer, safeguards compliance, and all of that binds Saudi Arabia's energy infrastructure and security guarantees to Washington rather than to rival powers like Russia or China for literally decades. Nuclear reactors and their fuel cycle arrangements operate a multi-decade timeline. So this agreement is absolutely huge. At the very same time, Iraq has been cutting fresh energy and reconstruction deals directly with the United States, deals that pull Baghdad further and further away from Tehran's decades-long grip over Iraqi politics, militias, and internal affairs. Iraq signed off on a Chevron pipeline running oil from Baghdad through Syria to the Mediterranean, meaning tankers can now bypass the Strait of Hormuz entirely. ConocoPhillips took a major stake in Iraqi oil. Starlink is now entering Iraq. JP Morgan is opening up a branch in Baghdad. Deals worth some like $60 billion, all for Iraq. And I mentioned earlier the deals Trump is making with Syria, right? So Syria is coming in. So Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, they're all being pulled out of Tehran's orbit, Beijing's orbit, Moscow's orbit in real time, and are now fully aligned in accordance with U.S. interests. And this is all part of Trump's 3D chess that is completely realigning the whole of the world order around America and America's interests in ways we've simply never seen before. Layer on top of all of that the ongoing push to expand the Abraham Accords, the very framework that Trump originally built during his first term. And then suddenly the entire picture snaps into focus. Every single one of these diplomatic moves accomplishes the exact same underlying objective: isolating Iran on the world stage while simultaneously binding the region's major powers ever closer to Washington. So put simply, gang, Theater 1 is destroying Iran's military capability. Theater 2 is crushing their economy down to nothing, all the while the U.S. is wealthier than ever before. And then Theater 3 is alienating them internationally until they have no allies left, standing all the while boxing out. They have no allies left, all the while boxing out Beijing and Moscow from the region. That right there is the actual 3D chessboard that Trump is playing on. And it's being executed with a level of coordination we honestly haven't seen from an American administration in decades. It's absolutely stunning stuff. Again, the legacy media, because it's a complicated board, it is without question, it's very, very complicated. He's got, Rubio and Hegseth, and Trump. They are definitely setting up a very, very complicated board, but all the pieces fit. Complexity isn't bad. Complexity is, when all is said and done, we are going to have a very different world, and that world will be very sustainable, and it will center around a new civilizationalist America. And then, of course, that begs the question, what is the final phase in all of this? Trump's already said he's deciding on executing the mother of all attacks, right? So where is this all going? How is this going to end? That is exactly what we're about to find out. But first, if you are just joining us, our super chats are up. So feel free to send in your comments and questions. It'd be my honor to answer them on this live stream. Also, one of the most frequent questions that I get asked by our audience is, hey, Dr. Steve, is it still good to buy gold? Is now really the time to buy gold? I mean, did I miss the train? It's so far up. I mean, and it's a fair question. Gold has had a tremendous run. Silver is moving higher. So naturally people wonder, did I miss it? Did I miss the opportunity? And I actually think that's the wrong question. I really do. The real question isn't whether gold has already gone up. The real question is whether the reasons for owning it have changed. So think about where we are today. Just look at what central banks are doing all around the world. They're buying gold at record levels. Global debt continues to explode. Geopolitical tensions they ain't going anywhere. These are the very trends that we've been talking about on this channel for years. And if those trends haven't changed, why would the case for owning physical gold and silver have changed? That's why more people than ever are taking a closer look, not because they're chasing price, but because they're responding to what's happening in the world. Some are purchasing physical gold and silver directly. Others are moving a portion of an IRA or 401k into a gold IRA as part of their long-term wealth protection strategy. And that's one of the reasons I trust Augusta Precious Metals. What I appreciate is that they don't try to convince you to buy anything. They start by helping you understand your options. They'll explain how purchasing physical gold or silver works. They'll show you how a gold IRA works if you're using retirement funds, answer your questions, and then let you decide whether it's right for your situation. Now, if you'd like to learn more, go to turleybuysgold.com, or you can text Turley to 35052. That's 35052, and request Augusta's free guide. Because in my view, the question isn't whether gold is already moved, it's whether the reasons for owning it have changed. From where I sit, they haven't. Click on that link below or give him a text right now. Oh no, my camera went out. I can't see. Give me 2 seconds to readjust my camera, gang. Josh, can you do you have some music? I could do a tap dance for you. But yeah, my camera went out. What happened to my camera? Let's see. Oh, weird. That's very weird. Josh, can you give him a little music in the head time? Sorry, guys. If I can't see you, I can't do this. Let me see what's going on. Let me see you beautiful people. There you are. All right. Good. Sorry, guys. A little technical info. You never know what's going to happen in a live stream. That's what makes it so much fun, right? All right. So where are we going in all of this? What is the final phase of this war that Trump is preparing for? We began with 40 days of active bombing, right, starting on February 28th. That was then followed by roughly, 100 days of stalled negotiations going back and forth. And then 2 weeks ago, we've had the resumption of the bombing, 13 straight nights. Up until now, none of it has managed to stop what's left of the missile barrages on Gulf states from Iran, right? So they're radically limited for sure, right? Iran's been hitting UAE, they've been hitting Saudi Arabia, they've been hitting Kuwait, Bahrain. Again, they're limited. There's not a lot. It's nothing like we saw in the first week of the war, right? When they were literally sending out hundreds of missiles. It's little tiny skirmishes here or there, but they do still keep coming, and they are effective. It's at least a semblance of being able to project power. And none of it has been able to resolve the fate of Iran's remaining enriched uranium stockpile. Nothing we've been doing thus far has been able to. They remain thoroughly recalcitrant on their remaining uranium. At least the IRGC hardliners are. They've been able to more or less sideline the more conciliatory negotiator wing. Remember, this is a regime in factions. There is no single regime. There are multiple factions, and they're all competing with each other. One minute, literally 1 hour, they're saying, we're done. We want to come to the table. The next hour, no, we're not. We're never done. We're going to go down fighting, blah, blah. They have no coherence. So that's why there's literally no coherent regime to deal with. So where is this all going? I think that the war historian Victor Davis Hanson is right on with this. He describes the whole entire standoff as a battle of pure strategic patience between the two sides. So Trump wants to permanently deny Iran nuclear weapons capability. He wants to deny their missile reach across the Gulf. and he wants to deny their control of the strait, all the while protecting his very thin congressional majorities heading into the midterms this fall. So this is where some people bring in a 4 or 5D chess, because you have the domestic theater that Trump has to handle as well, which many would argue was the whole point of the ceasefire. Ceasefire was for the purpose of calming the markets, the oil markets, to bring gas prices down, relieve pain at the pump, all the while rearm in the Gulf region. And that's true, and that's great. I just kind of skipped over that part. We could talk about that later on. Iran, on the other hand, is betting everything on dragging this conflict out past the midterms, right? They're not stupid. They want the Democrats to retake the House. They want Democrats to cut off war funding entirely. And in many respects, if they're really dug down, they're hoping for a friendlier administration to arrive in Washington by 2028. So I guess they're hoping Kamala wins or Gavin wins or AOC wins. Good luck with that. But so they're just trying to basically survive this bombardment. But Hansen points out something very crucial here, and I think this is really cool in terms of who has the leverage. Trump, in radical contrast to Iran, Trump is sitting on a genuinely strong economy. The economic numbers are very good right now. Low inflation, unemployment sitting at near 4%, solid GDP growth, very strong stock market. All of that is giving him very real confidence that he's going to be able to defy the historical pattern where the party in power almost always ends up losing seats to the tune of 30 or 40 seats in every election except for 3, every midterm election except for 3 in the last century. Trump is also looking at poll numbers that show that the MAGA faithful are 100% behind him. They trust him. Republicans in general are 100% behind us, as it were. They trust him. And most people recognize, yeah, the pain at the pump sucks, but the economy as a whole is doing pretty darn well. And so given that, given what we've seen thus far with Trump's 3D chessboard, here's what this final phase appears to look like in practice. First, Trump is, and we're already seeing it, is going to intensify strikes for 1 or 2 more weeks on the remaining conventional military targets, missile factories, launchers, drone fields, whatever's left of Iran's Mosquito fleet used to mine and harass the strait. That's all going to get wiped out. It largely is. If Iran still refuses to concede after that, if the more conciliatory faction cannot get control, which they probably won't, let's be honest, right? Given, if past is precedent, given the nature of the factional leadership, it's the IRGC, the hardliners are going to hold on. Well, then Trump is going to escalate the military theater further to dual-use targets. So these are the targets like infrastructure, technology, bridges, power grids that serve both, civilian and military purposes simultaneously. He's going to go after dual-use targets. He's going to go after. He's going to headhunt. He's going to go after the leadership that's still in there, take them out. And he's going to go after the enriched uranium. He's going to use B-2 bombers, blowing up suspected enriched uranium sites, key bridges, power grid infrastructures, you name it, basically rendering Iran as a society totally and completely inert. Their military would be gone. Their infrastructure would be gone. Their economy would be in tatters. By the way, as it already basically is. And then Iran, as a functional actor in the region, will effectively cease to exist. Trump has been trying to avoid this. He's wanted to go full Venezuela on these guys. Yeah, he wanted the head gone and then the remaining regime to play ball. And he thought he could dangle the carrot of reintegrating their oil into the global market, remove sanctions, start making them tons of money while they played ball, while they said, "Oh yeah, okay, go ahead. We'll give up our uranium. We'll give up our long range ballistic missiles, and yeah, we'll play ball. Maybe we'll even join the Abraham Accord." That kind of stuff, and that didn't happen. Just simply didn't happen. And in many ways, scholars have argued it can't happen because the moment the Iranian people see the regime giving up their entire ideological legitimacy, which is to destroy the great Satan, they were ordained by God to take on the West. That's their entire ideological legitimacy. That's why they've aligned so well with Beijing or Moscow and the like. If that's the case, then the people are like, well, then we don't need you. You're the whole basis of your legitimation is a lie. So in many ways, they've got no choice. They've got to go full Armageddon here for themselves, their own limited Armageddon. And so that's most likely what's going to happen is over the next 2 weeks, we're going to see U.S. forces obliterate militarily, socially, infrastructurally, the Iranian regime. And then Trump will declare Iran militarily inert. He will declare their nuclear capabilities wiped out once and for all. And he will formally hand off long-term Strait of Hormuz security to the Gulf allies themselves, who already field roughly 600 frontline combat aircraft collectively, with only limited American naval backup required going forward from that point on. So this is where the Abraham Accords security architecture comes into play. It's already there. It's already ready to go. It's the combination of Israeli muscle and Arab money, which provides the overall peace and prosperity architecture for the region for the foreseeable future. But the Iranian proxy network was its chief impediment. It's the Iranian proxy, Iran and its proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, that had to be eliminated or at least deterred in order for that architecture to start to build. And that Israeli muscle is key. And it's already being recognized here. Iran has been striking Gulf Arab states relentlessly. Iran has been hitting Oman. Again, it's limited skirmishes, nothing compared to the first couple of weeks of the war. So it clearly demonstrates their missile depletion. But they have been hitting Oman. They've been hitting the UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. Interestingly, they haven't been hitting Israel. They've even used, by the way, Houthi missiles of late against the Saudis directly. But they have notably avoided striking Israel throughout this entire renewed phase. Why? That's very interesting. They certainly didn't avoid it at the beginning, because Israel has fully restored its munition stockpiles after the earlier fighting. It's deeply penetrated IRGC intelligence networks at every level, and it has made it absolutely unmistakable that any strike on Israeli soil will result in the immediate and direct targeting of mid-tier Iranian leadership figures by name. That gang is overwhelming deterrence in its purest form, and Tehran knows it all too well. They got their hands full with U.S. forces right now. The last thing they need is to bring in Israeli forces on top of that. But unfortunately for them, given the architecture of the Abraham Accords, Israeli muscle and Arab money, it looks like they're going to get exactly that. So Hansen's ultimate bottom line here, and I think this lines up perfectly with everything that we've been walking through together with Trump's 3D chess, is that Trump likely has somewhere between 1 and 2 more weeks to finish off Iran's remaining conventional military capability, followed, of course, by a dual-use targeting phase against nuclear-adjacent infrastructure and the like, before then turning his full attention back home to the economy, heading into the critical midterm elections, having handed over the Middle Eastern regional security architecture to the Abraham Accords, so that from now on, they can build the Riviera of the Middle East. I mean, that's how the Abraham Accords really started in the end, is the promise of creating, turning Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East, bringing in massive international investment and economic prosperity. And that would, in effect, rebuild the infrastructure while destroying the radical jihadist ideology that's festered there. So that looks like where we're going. It looks like Trump is going to have to go where he did not want to go, but was always willing to go. And that is basically obliterate Iran. Obliterate Iran's ability to project power completely and totally, rendering it inert, and thereby enabling it to be, enabling the custodial significance then for the Abraham Accords, so they can oversee a very pacified Iran in their pursuit of prosperity and progress and peace in the Middle Eastern region. But make absolutely no mistake about this. The option of another direct strike on Iran's deeply buried underground nuclear sites, the very same strike we saw carried out last summer in June, is fully and firmly on the table if the regime continues to refuse to let their nuclear program die once and for all. So 13 nights of relentless bombing, a B-1 strategic bomber flying live combat missions straight from British soil for the very first time in this renewed campaign. Reports of the Quds force commander himself being taken out. 3 entire theaters of pressure, military, economic, and diplomatic, all closing in on Tehran simultaneously and reinforcing one another by literally the hour. And a major military historian predicting that we may be as little as 1, 2, 3 weeks away from watching Trump formally declare this regime militarily, economically, and nuclearly, if that's a term, finished once and for all, and then turn the entire region over to a new U.S.-based Abraham Accords alliance. So, gang, we are watching the final chapter of the Islamic Republic being written in real time, right in front of our very eyes, with a new American civilizationalist-centered world rising from the ashes. Over to you guys. Over to you. Our super chats are still up. Fire away with any questions or comments. I will be more than happy to answer them right here, right now on this live stream. Also, did you know that U.S. life expectancy peaked at around 78 years back in 2014, and global life expectancy has been declining for the first time in 30 years because people are aging faster than ever before. And this is largely due to more toxins in the air and chemicals in our soil and our food and other external factors that are new to us. What most people don't know is that we can actually fight aging on a cellular level. Scientists have discovered that kimchi actually slows the aging process of human cells, helping to protect them and delay aging. The power of nature can outweigh the power of pharmaceuticals without the nasty side effects. And now you can get all the benefits of kimchi in a simple capsule with Kimchi One. I take Kimchi One every single day. I absolutely love it. Just had it an hour ago, actually. Each capsule delivers over 900 probiotic strains plus antioxidants and enzymes that support your digestion, your metabolism, and your skin health from the inside out. As we age, we become more susceptible to microbial threats and harmful viruses and bacteria. But the beauty is that Kimchi One's a natural antimicrobial, helping your body fight off harmful bacteria, viruses, and even toxins while boosting immunity and energy. And best of all, Kimchi One's 100% made right here in America. It's all natural, non-GMO. So do what I do, support your gut, protect your cells, feel younger every day with Kimchi One from Brightcore. Today, you can get an exclusive offer by clicking the link below. Just use code Turley for 25% off your entire order, or for an even better deal, call my friends at Brightcore for up to 50% off your order and free shipping. Give them a call right now, 888-597-0233. That's 888-597-0233. 3-3. All right, Josh, what do we got? What do we got? Bob C. Good to hear from you, my friend. Question: do you regard J.D. Vance as the forerunner for 2028, or has he lost ground to Marco Rubio due to recent comments? No, he's definitely the foreground. It's in many ways, it's a great question, Bob, because in many ways it's all irrelevant. Because what does this all come down to? Who will get the nomination? By definition, put it in the chat. Who knows it? Who's going to get the nomination by I mean, there's not even a front runner per se. Who's going to get the nomination? The one who is endorsed by Donald J. Trump. Trump's endorsement is the deal maker here. And so JD is going to get it. I mean, it does at this point, unless something disastrous happens to him. But no, he's going to get it. All the silly frothing at the mouth that we're seeing from Shapiro and others, they're all, remember, these are all Mark Levin. These were all avowed never Trumpers at the beginning. They do not like the new working class populist party. They like the old neocon Mitt Romney. I was almost saying Mitch McConnell, Mitt Romney Republican Party. They like that party. But the problem is that, as I understand it, that coalition is dead. Okay, it died in 2006 with the midterms that crushed the last time we saw that coalition that gave us New Mexico, for example, and Nevada, and that was in 2004. Since then, we have never seen that coalition be able to survive again. The new coalition, ironically, was the Obama coalition that was made up of working class Latinos and young voters. And they were a massive coalition. And ironically, that coalition turned into the Trump coalition 8 years later in 2016 and in 2024. But started in 2016 with the white working class. But then in 2024, the Latinos came over and young people came over. And you have a solid coalition that's going to be winning Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, may eventually be winning New Hampshire, Maine, and New Mexico for the foreseeable future. Now, keep in mind, by 2030, we won't even need the three blue wall states of Michigan, Wisconsin, or Pennsylvania anymore. We'll have enough electoral vote, college votes to win. But it's always nice to pad your win for sure. So anyway, when all is said and done, whoever Trump endorses will get it, and it looks like it's JD all the way on that. And it won't be either or. It'll be and that's how in the end, Shapiro and everyone are going to justify getting back on the bandwagon. It is going to be a Vance Rubio ticket. That's almost guaranteed. They're actually very good friends. It's almost guaranteed. And that'll be the way you could placate it. It was almost like originally doing a Trump DeSantis ticket. This would be a variation on that. Democratic Socialist Llama Glamas of America. Oh, great. Oh, I know who this is. ROT, of course. Oh, great. And Laird, Patriot Professor. Our ROT Core has asked it before, but ROT Core, and I cannot understand why we keep lending credences to anything James Carville says. He was all on board with the socialism commie Lama Harris, hint, hint, was running on. If she had won, he wouldn't be saying any of the things he's saying now. I think at this point, we only listen to him complain. And that's key. Yes. No, you're right on. That's where I was going to go. No, when it comes to what he's arguing about Trump or the Republican, but no, it's nonsense. It's pure nonsense. But no, he's finally coming out and recognizing, this is the guy who wrote in the New York Times 3 reasons why I am absolutely certain Kamala Harris is going to win. And it was a horribly argued essay, but piece, I should say. He now knows that with the Democrat Socialists of America taking over the Democratic Party, he knows that is political poison. He knows that. Not in, I mean, keep in mind, I was going to say not in New York, not in Seattle, but it is. Even in New York, even in Seattle. This is where Meghan McCain is just so absurd. She's like, oh, I'm so glad Mamdani wasn't born in this country, because then if he ran for president, I mean, he's like Obama. He barely won New York. He barely won. Staten Island voted against him in mass. He barely won. He won with just a single digit margin. Your current what's her name, Crazy Katie out in Seattle, she won by less than 1% of the vote. It was the slimmest margin in Seattle elections in a century. And that's because woke social democrats split the left. They split the left. So these elections literally are playing out exactly that way, with the social democrats getting barely 51, 52%. But 48% of the left doesn't want them. There's no Republicans voting it in New York or New York City or Seattle or Chicago. It's all Democrats. It's 9-1 Democrat or whatever it is, 7-1 or so forth. So they're totally irrelevant. But it's I mean, it's just, there's no way around that. These social democrats are unpopular even on the left. And so James Carville is recognizing that if this is where the Democrat Party is going to go, they can get all the fawning coverage they want from the legacy media, given that the vast majority of the country doesn't pay any attention. Only about 5% of the country watches the legacy media. It's about 20 million in a population of 350 million. And they're overwhelmingly Democrat anyway. So they can get all the fawning coverage they want from the legacy media. They are going to absolutely collapse at the wider electoral level. If they can barely win New York City and Seattle, what do you think that says about Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, New Mexico, Nevada, New Hampshire, Maine? I mean, they're in trouble big time. So that's where he's coming from. He recognizes it. And so to me, that's what makes listening to him fun. Other than that, I mean, the guy, half his videos are from his bed. He looks like he's on his deathbed. So it's an ironic picture of the state of the Democrat Party in general. William O'Toole, could Mamdani actually be arrested by the federal government with his attempt to arrest the Israeli prime minister? Thank you. Well, he's not going to do what he's already said. Again, he's just a performative artist. I mean, in the end, it's just performative politics. And again, keep in mind, this is a guy who's coming from a movement that wants to abolish prisons and defund the police. So who's he going to arrest him with, and where's he going to take him? Interesting how that works, isn't it? Defund the police and abolish prisons are only for one group of people, as it were. It's not for another group of people. They'll have gulags instead for another group of people. So no, he won't get arrested. Don't pay any attention to that stuff. That's just hyperbole and sensationalism. William, observation, LA is now flooded with sewer water and its byproducts. Where was all this H2O during the fires? Great question. It's just pure mismanagement. It's not an issue if they don't have water. It's not an issue if they don't have water. It's an issue of total mismanagement. Franz, Dr. Steve, will Thune be able to drive the SAVE Act across the finish line, or will he just continue to rearrange decks on the Titanic? I am very concerned it's the latter. Unfortunately now. Trump has come to Capitol Hill to put pressure on. There's 4 senators, when all said and done, who are not playing ball, right? It's McConnell. We don't even know if he's alive, right? And he's our own, I'm just going to call him Mojtaba McConnell. So you got McConnell, you got what's her name, Murkowski, who is an affront to anything and everything Republican. Then you got Tillis and you got Collins. Tillis is on his way out, and he's just a bitter bitch. Collins can switch. So we got 53, right, Senate seats. So that puts us at 49. Collins could switch. Just that's, to me, that is what Thune has to put all his time and effort in. She's getting a lot of money for her Senate reelection. And so she's the one who can make this happen. So keep an eye on her. But Thune himself is got to be the most, I mean, you might as well just have a funeral director as the Senate majority leader. This guy is the most demoralizing loser I think I have ever witnessed in politics. I would say he's second to Chuck Schumer. Even Democrats think Chuck Schumer is a disaster. Chuck Schumer is the ultimate, mortician. But this guy, Thune, he just gets up and he's like, what do you want me to do? I don't have the votes. What do you want me to do? It's just such the opposite of the party of fight, 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 and win, win, win. That's the Republican Party under Trump. He's under this establishmentarian, parliamentarian, proceduralist party that was characteristic of the Bush years that the rank and file have rejected. So we'll see. But right now it's 4 votes. I think 3 are permanent because I think one is in what is it? In ice right now. What's that? A Cairo? What do you call it when you're cryogenics or whatever? When you're frozen and then you're supposed to, like Walt Disney apparently, and then reanimated when we have the cure to whatever your disease is. It's going to be Collins, and we'll have to see. I have no idea at this point. Richard, Dr. Steve, Bill Maher, Van Jones, James Carville warn Democrats the communist wing of the left will destroy their party. Yeah, big time, Richard. Yeah, no, and they're right. They're right. And there's a little pragmatism there. Don't think it's 100. I mean, they're going to dress it. They're going to dress it as real, legitimate, moral opposition. But in the end, they know they're politically astute. They know this is going to be a disaster for the Democrats. If you can barely win the most Democrat-dense regions in the country with a DSA, what does that say about Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin? Especially since they've all gotten redder since 2024. What does that say? So they're shocked. Again, the media will always present them smiling and exciting and, young people are so active and good. It's all lies. It's all propaganda. It's pure propaganda. It's nothing more. It's Elon. Check out Elon's wonderful interview. It's what was her name on Channel 4 with Jordan Peterson, Kathy Newman. It's the new Kathy Newman interview. It's brilliant. I mean, this is just an absolute globalist lib from The Economist, British. It's just British trash. And Elon he just wiped the floor with her. It was brilliant all the way for the full hour. You have to check it out. What can be done about the use by AI build? I'm sorry, Linda. What can be done about the use of AI builders to train using the left-wing Wikipedia as a trusted source? See, Jillian Michaels, with Ashley Rinsberg back in July of 19. Yeah, it's AI competition. You're bringing up a great point, and this is exactly what I write about in my CivCosm book. I have a whole chapter on it, on the civilizational significance of AI. So AI is not, as we're finding technology as a whole, is not neutral. It is going to project and extend civilizational identity. And what we're seeing today is the left is being taken over by what's called third worldism, which is basically wokeness plus civilizationalism. So it's wokeness, but not in the abstract anymore. It's wokeness now connected to the third world resistance to the great evil of the planet, and that's Western civilization. That's Mamdani, and that's AOC, and that's Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and so on. They're all third worldists. And that's the DSA as a whole. The DSA has been taken over by third worldists. And when third worldists get a hold of AI, they're going to push third worldism through its technological extension in AI. The good news is you have competing AI. And by the way, it's the same with Chinese AI, right? CCP AI. AI will be an extension of CCP power. AI will be an extension of Russia's the third Rome power. Their particularly Byzantine conception of the world. It'll be an extension of India's Hindutva. It's basically a Hindu version of Sharia law. It'll be an extension of Islamic power. AI is civilizationalist. And so you're going to have companies here in the United States that push an AI that's third worldist. Ignore it. Pay no attention to it. And use Grok and other AIs that are thoroughly in line with robust American civilizationalism. I love Perplexity. I don't know if you have used Perplexity. I've never had an issue with Perplexity. Perplexity can get into all kinds of controversial issues. Whereas I have with, I think it was GPT or Clasp, I have done research through them, and they actually shut my research down, as it were. They said, no, I can't explore that. Or they'll just throw left-wing nonsense at me. And I'll say, you understand, you're throwing left-wing. Oh no, but this is the objective reporting of mainstream news. And I'm like, whereas I notice if I say that to Perplexity is like, you're right. I mean, there's plenty of criticism of mainstream news, no question about it. I'll be what disposition of news do you want me to draw from? So it's very, very accommodating. So there you go. It's very civilizational. So get my book, Civ calls them. Go to Amazon and grab it. So number 1 in 2 categories, which is really cool. MAGA 20 forever, Dr. Steve. I know some Turley talkers are concerned or upset that Trump and his administration not solely focus on 2026 midterms, even though he's done tremendous things. I'd say to people that Trump is highly focused on the midterms, but also simultaneously laying groundwork for 2028 victory and MAGA domination for the next decade. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely. Is that an accurate, fair summary? Yeah. So my problem with a lot of the MAGA faithful is they're being held hostage by the midterms. And you can't do that. You just can't. But from the very fact that the overwhelming chances are we're going to lose. Not in the Senate. We got the Senate pretty much wrapped up. But we're going to lose the House. Not by much, but by a few seats. Why? Because the party out of power has always picked up seats in every midterm, for the exception of 3 over the last centuries. 1934, 1998, 2002. Those are your 3 exceptions where the party in power picked up seats. Trump was even able to do it. He was one of 5 times that the party in power picked up seats in the Senate. We picked up 2 seats in the Senate in 2018. So my thing is, don't be held hostage by an election you'll probably lose. That said, if there were ever a time for a 4th exception, it is this year. Now, people could say that's what I'm worried about. That's what I think we really can do it. I think we really can pull it off. Okay, I got you. But Trump thinks we can walk and chew gum at the same time. Trump thinks we can do both. He thinks we can crush it in the Middle East and realign the global map around the centrality of the United States as the energy exporter par excellence. And he believes we can win the midterms. I trust him. He's the guy I voted for. I trust him. And then what I'm looking for is an implosion in voter registrations, which we've been winning. If I see a reverse in that, I'm like, that doesn't look good. I'm looking at an implosion in the generic ballot, not in a poll here or there, not in outliers, but in a general trend. That doesn't look good. But again, that's even hard to apply. Does that apply to, this district in Pennsylvania? Does it apply to this district in Texas? Probably not. Does it? So that's what I mean. It's a little harder there. So I'm looking at those two factors. I'm looking at presidential approval again. Broadly speaking, with pollsters that I trust, and I'm looking at also the projections for House seats based on the redistricting and the trends going on in individual districts from Cook, from Crystal Ball, and from Inside Elections. Those are your three projecting models, and all three still have the Republicans ahead. So right now, as we speak, it looks like we can do both. We can do both. Robo Guy, I like how Homer said, "Don't blame me, I voted for Kodos." I said, "Don't blame me, I voted for Jack Ciattarelli." That's right. Let's be honest. Mikey cheated her way in. Is it Mike? I know. I always forget. Is it Mikey or me? I think it's Mikey, isn't it? Cheated her way in, and it's good she's being exposed for the fraud she is. Yeah, she had no choice. She had to get it. She had to get ahead of that story. Mark Wayne Mullen had published that there were tens of thousands of illegals on New Jersey's voting rolls, and that they were launching an investigation. She was getting bombarded by the press on it. She had to get ahead of it. And then she turned around and blamed it on a computer glitch. And God bless that software company. I forget their name, but they came out and said, "We didn't do anything. Our software works fine. There's no glitch that moves somebody from motor vehicle rolls to voter rolls. There's no glitch." No, they did that. They did that. And that's what automatic voter registration always does. It's intended to do. So she got caught. She got caught big time. And let's see what happens. Rebel Squirrel, ironically, the United States' new dominance in the oil and LNG market, liquid natural gas, if you don't know, also reinforces the economic differences between red states and blue states, does it not? Never even thought about that, Rebel Squirrel, especially now that like Chevron has left right, or yeah, is it no ExxonMobil? Which one just left New Jersey? I always get them all mixed up. It might have been ExxonMobil. Which one was the old Rockefeller gas company left New Jersey? I don't know why this is stuff that bothers me. ExxonMobil, yeah. ExxonMobil's gone. They're going to Houston. We're seeing this Chevron leaving California. That is a brilliant point, that the global realignment around the United States, where we're basically controlling 50 to 60% of oil, especially with the choke points that we control, from the Strait of Malacca to Panama Canal to Gibraltar, and of course now Hormuz. Yeah, I mean, that's right. It's going to be flooding money into red states at this point, centered in through Texas, but Louisiana and a number of others. It's brilliant insight. Jones says the GOP is awash in money. Why does Win Red keep peddling bait and switch fundraising schemes and outright insults? Are you a Democrat now? I've called congressional offices to complain, but staff always says they have no control over the ads, even though it's for their representative or senator. This makes me distrust them. Few candidates play it straight. If they give an address, I might donate to them by check. It's a good question. I haven't kept up with Win Red. I simply haven't. Right now, so you've got MAGA Inc., if I recall. I think that's Trump's, his own personal piggy bank that's up around $500 million right now. It's absolutely huge. Apparently, the RNC is raking in the money, and they're ready to zero in their cash on very specific seats, because all we need, depending on which election projection model you look at, either one you look at, we only need a handful of seats to win because of all the redistricting. There's not a lot. They're not going to be supporting any rhinos anymore. Susan Collins is about it, but they're going to be supporting Ken Paxton. They're going to be supporting the replacement of forget his name, of what's his name, Bill Cassidy in Louisiana. They're going to be supporting a strong MAGA candidate in Ohio. I mean, So, you could probably give it to RNC. But I haven't kept up with WinRed. So if they're bothering you, just block them. That's all. That's what I do. I mean, I get stuff texted me all the time, and I just block it. I don't listen to it. Bert, good morning, Dr. Steve. Sorry about the first one. What do you think of Germany's deal with Russia making power plants? Haven't kept up with it. I saw a little bit of it, Bert. You know, yeah. Again, I'm cool with stuff like that. I am. I know it sounds a little counterintuitive with the Middle East, because I kind of like Russia being kicked out of there because I think they're too pro-Iranian. But if there isn't, Russia supports the so-called far right parties. They support AfD, and I think they're okay with Europe. I mean, Russia's part of Europe, and it belongs as an integral part of Europe, and it's a very conservative part of Europe. So I'm cool with that. I'm cool with Europe doing deals with Russia, and I would like Elon said the other day in the Economist interview, I would really like to see this Ukraine war ended. I think Putin has made his point. They are going to protect the orthosphere. That is a unique civilizational sphere to Russia, whether we like it or not. That's the way they see it, and they got the nukes and a big army to back it up. And I think just Europe has to make peace with the idea that 20% of Ukraine is gone, and they just have to make peace with that. And maybe perhaps Germany can help be a mediator of that. We'll see. Susanna, what gives with the ICC? We need to come up with a different Joker is not Joker, maybe. I don't know. Would that be an I? The International Communist Court or something like that. What power over every sovereign nation do they actually have? Their history, but mostly importantly, what can make them go away? Ignore them. That's how you make them go away. It's a UN body, if I recall. They have no power. They have no authority over any nation on the planet, and you don't have to pay attention to them at all. They only have power that we give to them. And Mamdani is a communist. Communism is by definition globalist. It's a radically left-wing form of globalism, and that sees no sovereign significance to borders, whatever, unless you're third world. If we did to, say, Mexico, what Mexico has been doing to us over the last 3 decades, just pouring into it, he would be screaming and crying about it. Again, it's like abolish prisons and defund the police, but arrest Netanyahu. How do you put those two together? Well, because prisons and police are only for Western imperialism, right? And that's what the ICC is. And that's why he loves the ICC. He doesn't care about our laws. He cares about international law, which is another way of saying he's a communist when all's said and done. But they have no power. I wouldn't pay any attention to them at all. RoboGuy, with mail-in ballots being BS, I'm starting to think Trump should send poll watchers and ICE to California. The most, considering they're so corrupt, they could try to make every seat blue just because. Yeah, I'm with you. It's just the problem you got with California is, what are you going to do? I mean, they're going to be counting them for 6 weeks. California has literally made legal fraud. That's what they've done. That's what makes California so insane. I think Washington, in many ways, has done the same thing by turning their entire election system into mail-in ballots. So, yeah, you can. But at this point, I think California is just gone by their own hands, by their own demise. It's just a disaster. Lisa, Dr. Steve, do you know if the people of Iran are hiding or optimistically praying for President Trump freeing them from Iran's murderous leaders? Yeah, as I understand it, all the polling that we have seen over the last decade shows that the Iranian people overwhelmingly reject this regime. We're talking upwards of 90%. Now, I've heard there's some polling that suggests the opposite. I guess Trump in the end says it's irrelevant. The regime is going down, whether people like it or not. Again, it may still exist, but it's not going to have the ability to project power. So, yeah, I think the people are both. I think hiding and optimistically praying that something changes, but I think they're very scared, no question. Robo Guy, what most communists don't understand, the only reason China and Vietnam somewhat works because of market reforms, or at least some capitalism. Pure communism never works. You're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right. And they're not third worldist. They don't demonize an entire segment of their population. Their population is homogenous. It works together. And they're working together in a very managed capitalist system, but they're making tons of cash, tons of money. And it's not about demonizing anybody. Johnny Ma was a billionaire. They have plenty of billionaires. And as a matter of fact, I thought, looking at the list of the countries with the most amount of billionaires, I thought China was like in the top 3. We've got tons of billionaires. They're making tons of money. It's just what it is it is either in the case of Vietnam, a sort of Buddhist, indigenous, and in the case of China, Confucian hierarchical caste system structure that's very ancient and very sacred and very deeply embedded in their imaginative DNA, where their leaders have, for right or for wrong, they have effectively persuaded their populations that they are the modern incarnate of their ancient political systems. So the CCP today are the modern day incarnation of the emperor and the emperor's cohort. Same thing in Vietnam. So they've been very effective in being able to tap into this archaeo-future vibe that's very attractive and persuasive for people. We don't have anything like that here. Mamdani could only come to power by convincing already highly liberal people that this is wokeness's most faithful outworking, this sort of global jihad against the Western civilization. And the vast majority of the American civilization says, F you, don't want anything to do with that. So it just doesn't have the ancient cultural sacred roots that Chinese and Vietnamese communism has had. It didn't even work in Russia. It collapsed. It just didn't have it. What you have now in Russia is much more complementary to what they had under the Tsar, for example. Mitchell Ryan, why can't we build more refineries here to reduce the cost of oil in the United States? I know his approval rating is getting hit due to the cost of everyday goods. Could his approval jump up before the midterms? Yeah, I just wouldn't, again, I look at polls, we measure polls, but I'd be a little careful on that. When you look at the polling, polling you have to be very comparative with. And when you look at the polling, so to answer your first question, I don't know. I think we can build more refineries. I don't know what the holdup is there, but I don't think that's an issue. Again, I don't know if that's going to do anything prior to November. But I just wouldn't worry. Don't pay too much attention to a media ecology that thrives off of degrading the right and pumping up the left. I just don't pay much attention to it. Because when you look at the polling of good trusted sources, like say Quantus Insights, for example, the polling among the MAGA faithful are all in. They're very excited about the midterms. They can't wait. And they're ready to go. And then when you say, but independents, well, it depends which independent. New Hampshire independents are not the same as Texas independents. right? Maine independence are not the same as Louisiana independence. So it's just it's this broad. It's a big country in a broad brush. Oh, Trump's poll numbers are going down. They're imploding in California. They're implode even lower than they normally are. They're imploding in Washington. They're imploding in Chicago. They're imploding in Manhattan. Yes, yes, but they still, from what we see, remain very strong in the Midwest and the South, in deep red country. And also keep in mind that Trump always outperforms his poll numbers, meaning that even people who disapprove of Trump still vote for him. Not all, obviously, but a lot do. So I know someone very dear to me who is 1,000% MAGA, but she hates Trump. And these tend to be women. But she really, really doesn't like Trump. She can't stand Trump. She hated UFC 250. She can't stand any of that stuff. But she will vote for him every time. She'll crawl through glass to vote for him because she's voting for the movement. She loves the movement, and she loves JD. Interestingly, she loves JD. So there you go. So I wouldn't put too much credence in that. Harry, Dr. Steve, lots of excitement in Peru for this Tuesday when Keiko Fujimori is sworn in as their new and rightful and glorious, the return of the Fujimori dynasty to their presidency. I'm even seeing Japanese posters on X are excited as well. Latin America is becoming MAGA. It is. What is it? 7 elections? There were 7 out of 7, if I recall, in Latin America for the right winning. It's been absolutely incredible, not including Venezuela. Of course, we're taking out Venezuela. And then you have Noriega now in Nicaragua saying, we will not have any more elections in order to protect democracy so as to keep socialism in power. He's such a pathetic dweeb. Mitchell, do you think Trump's approval rate can improve before the midterms? Yeah, I already talked about that. Terry, did the Russian Federation really, really go there by joining Iran in its present war? And if so, then did Vladimir Putin, by so acting, bring upon himself and the country the Genesis 12:3 curse? No, I don't. I don't know about your eschatology there. You have to. That's neither here nor there for me. I'm Orthodox, so I don't necessarily go that direction. But having said that, no, the Russian Federation isn't doing much. They're bogged down in Ukraine. There's not anything they can do for Iran. They know Iran's a losing battle. Texas on la shock. Just watch Larry O'Connor talking about a means dating back to Reconstruction where the House can refuse representatives they believe would work against the U.S. best interests. Can you confirm? And what would be the procedure for that? Good question. I do not know. I trust Larry O'Connor. And I have to look at that video. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to play hardball here. We're dealing with a group of people that literally want to destroy the country. They want to abolish the Senate. They want to abolish the presidency. They're which just means they just want to turn the Speaker of the House president. No, you're dealing with a group of people that hate America, hate Western civilization, hate everything about us, and they're openly trying to destroy us from within. And either we're going to take that seriously or not. Either we're going to see that as a terroristic threat or we're not. So. But I'd have to avail myself of what Larry was talking about. Hanlov, what happens with remaining fundamentalist regime supporters when Iran regime is replaced? Go underground and pop up in future and unpleasant ways? Great question. No, I don't think so. I think we would have to actually study that in terms of what happens with like sort of regime loyalists. But generally speaking, politics operates at a different level than normal everyday society. So normal everyday society, for lack of a better term, it is private. So I get to go to whatever supermarket I feel like going to. I get to go to the park whenever I feel like going to it. I get to go to whatever auto mechanic I feel like that's what we refer to as sort of private, consumer-based, volitional structure of society. Government is public life. It's very, very different structure. And it operates by a very different dynamic. So I don't get to choose what government I mean, outside of voting, but I mean, I'm stuck with whatever government comes my way. I don't get to choose when I pay my taxes. I don't get to choose if I pay my taxes. I don't get to choose if I get called into court. I don't get to choose whether I want to go or not. So public life is obligatory, whereas private life deals with all kinds of options. So you're asking a question: what do you do with all of these, fundamentalist regime supporters in the private realm once their public regime has fallen or has been rendered inert? They don't necessarily translate, is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't necessarily, they could be pissed, they could be upset, that might cause some problems, but outside of an actual a full-blown insurrection, which would be Iranian civil war, and we don't have the ground troops to be concerned about, to defend in the midst of insurrection. Outside of that, it really is it's really like, well, sucks to be you kind of thing. It just there's not a lot they can do. The sentiments that they have for a public institution that has imploded don't translate into a new public institution, right? It's there's more to it than that. And they're going to have to deal with regional powers. They're going to exercise much more influence in Iranian public sphere than they have in the past. It used to be Iran exercising their influence in their public spheres. Now it's going to be the other way around because they've been rendered inert. So anyway, and that's my shot at it. Vaughn, Dr. Steve, I established a $100 bet with a crew of progressive morons in another forum. The bet from me is that the entire Mosaic Mullah Mafia will be decapitated by the end of August. Do you want in? Okay. I think that's where it's going. I think you're right. I don't think that's a bad bet. I don't tend to bet. I'm not a betting man, but I think you're onto it. I do think decapitation is on the table now. It certainly is for Israel. And the Mossad has the intelligence to pull it off. We saw that on February 28th in dramatic fashion. And again, I think they've been generating intelligence all this time. And I think there's going to be another round of major decapitation for sure. There's no question. Franz, when do we get a Prometheus collaboration? Love to do it. We'll have to work it out. Just so you know, I mean, I do some collab. I don't do a lot. And Promethean ladies would be wonderful. One of the reasons is, as we've seen, how do I say this? I was about to say I don't trust a lot of channels. I guess that's a right way of saying it. But what I mean, look at the way Tucker turned, right? Or look at the way Megan turned. I'm kind of like, I don't want to be caught up in all that. I don't want to be caught up in inter-channel soap operas. I have no interest in that at all. None. I have more interest in watching a fly die than getting involved in that. That's a Don Rickles. That's a Don Rickles line. We could all just sit around and watch a fly die. So I tend not to do a lot of collabs. So if you wonder why if I haven't done it, it's not anything with them or whatever. I don't reach out to channels to do collab. We get reached out a lot, and some I say sure, and others I'm like, But anyway, yeah. If Franz, if you know how to make that happen, go right ahead. We can. It would be a very interesting discussion, I'm sure. JP Mangan, a Senate leader in the CVA battle, forced the Democrats to defend their positions for a record debate, but it eventually passed. Thune is too cowardly to do what's right. The SAVE Act can be done. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. Thune deserves he deserves all the scorn in the world that he's getting. Like I said, I can't think of a more demoralizing quote unquote Senate majority leader. And he will probably lose the seat in 2028. He'll get primaried. We will John Cornyn him. We'll Liz Cheney him. And he'll lose by 30 points at this point. But his argument is there's 4 that refuse to vote with it, right? McConnell, Murkowski, Tillis, and Collins. Now, Collins has voted before for it. So this is what I mean. He can do something with Collins. He has to forget the other 3. They're morons. They're losers. Tillis is gone. Mitchell's gone. And I don't know how many of you are from Alaska, but if you can't get rid of Murkowski, there should be like I don't know if you guys have ever read the Silmarillion, but there's something called a Mandos curse. There should be a Mandos curse put on Alaska. I mean, let's get rid of Alaska and we'll take Venezuela instead. We'll exchange it. You got how you keep sending. I know she buys off some of the villages and all the pay, but how you keep sending this idiot to Senate is you should be ashamed. I mean, it's just disgusting. So anyway, he's got to get Collins, and if he can't get Collins, I think that's on him in the end. Richard, Dr. Turley, is it true that Alan Dershowitz left the Democratic? Yes, he joined the Republican Party a couple of months ago, if I recall. He was very open about it. Vils Vinjager, this is new to me. Lindsey Graham gone. Now his sister Darlene Graham. Is she experienced McConnell? Is she experienced McConnell who replaces him? He's circling the drain. He's circling the swamp drain. Is she experienced? Is she an experienced McConnell? I don't know how to answer that question. If you're worried about Darlene Graham, again, whoever gets the South Carolina seat is the one who is endorsed by Trump. If Trump has endorsed her, who the hell are we to say that was a bad decision? What information do you have that he doesn't? He's got all the info. He's got his inner circle of advisors. They're all MAGA through and through, right? So, as I understand it, she's a loyalist to Trump. She's a total loyalist, and that's what he values. He doesn't value ideology. He will throw out a neocon, and he will throw out the libcon libertarian wing like Massey and MTG. He doesn't care who you are. You got to be loyal. Bottom line. DL Hemingway, in today's world, what use is the UN? Great question. I have no idea. I mean, especially in many ways, the Board of Peace is there to try to replace the UN. That's what I think Trump is trying to do, ultimately. Richard, why doesn't Trump cut funding to the UN? I don't know if it's his capacity to do so. I believe that's Congress's capacity. And you have to ask Mike Johnson. And there you go. All right, guys. Wonderful, wonderful weekend to all of you. Hopefully you have some beautiful weather at this end of July. Anything breaking, remember, I will be your back porch professor, and I will be happy to report to you breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else over the weekend. Love you guys. God bless.